Welcome everybody to the 2025 WNBA Finals presented by YouTube TV. We'll begin with remarks from Commissioner Cathy Engelbert, and then we'll turn.
Something massive just dropped involving the WNBA, its commissioner, and the woman who has completely transformed the entire league. And if you thought Caitlin Clark's 2025 season was a storyline, you have absolutely no idea what's coming next. The commissioner of the WNBA just went on national television and said something about Clark that nobody expected. And it changes everything heading into 2026. But before we get into that, though, you need to understand how we even got here, because the road to this moment has been one of the wildest, most dramatic rides in women's sports history. Let's rewind to 2024 to Caitlin Clark enters the WNBA, and immediately, the league transforms overnight. Television ratings explode, arenas sell out. Tickets for Indiana Fever games start reselling at prices that rival NBA playoff games. The merchandise flies off shelves. Sponsors come flooding in. Every broadcast, every highlight reel, every trending topic on social media, her name is in the middle of it. The WNBA had been growing steadily for years, but this was different. This was a full-on cultural explosion, and Clark was the one who lit the fuse. But even as the league was riding this wave of attention and money unlike anything it had seen before, something dark was brewing underneath the surface. A storm between the league's leadership and its players that would eventually explode in the most public way possible. The 2025 season was supposed to be where it all came together. Clark was coming off a historic rookie campaign. The Indiana Fever were building momentum. Fans were locked in. Sponsors were doubling down. And then it all fell apart. Clark went down with injuries. Not once, not twice, but repeatedly. A right groin strain ultimately shut her down for the entire postseason after she'd played just 13 games, all season long. 13 games. And even in those 13 games, she was averaging 16.5 points, 8.8 assists, and 5.0 rebounds per game. The talent was there. The body just wasn't operating. Meanwhile, Indiana still managed to fight their way to the brink of the WNBA Finals before falling to the Las Vegas Aces in the semifinals. But that injury-shortened season set up a bigger conversation, one that had nothing to do with basketball and everything to do with money, power, and the future of the entire league. Because while Clark was in rehab, the WNBA and its players' union were about to go to war. Other collective bargaining agreement between the league and the WNBPA was heading toward expiration, and the two sides were miles apart. Players wanted revenue sharing. They wanted dramatically higher salaries. They wanted chartered flights for every team, better facilities, more investment in their careers. The league kept pointing to something called sustainability every time the players asked for more, and the players were furious. Nafisa Collier, one of the league's biggest stars, went scorched earth in her end-of-season press conference. She called the WNBA front office the worst leadership in the world. She didn't whisper it, she said it loud. And the entire league heard it. Players from every team immediately lined up behind her, voicing support and piling on with their own frustrations. The commissioner, Cathy Engelbert, was suddenly in the most uncomfortable position of her career. And then came the most explosive allegation of all. Collier alleged that Commissioner Engelbert had told her directly that Caitlin Clark and players like her should be on their knees in gratitude for what the WNBA platform had given them, suggesting that without the league, Clark would be making nothing. That statement detonated like a bomb. Social media went absolutely haywire. Former players, current players, fans, media personalities, everyone had something to say. Was the commissioner of the WNBA really that dismissive of her own star player? Was she really downplaying the role that Caitlin Clark had played in making the league what it was becoming? Engelbert pushed back hard, denying the comment at a press conference ahead of the WNBA Finals. She called Clark a transformational player for the league, she said. The reports were filled with inaccuracies. She said she was disheartened. She said she and the league needed to do better. But the damage was done. Trust between the players and league leadership had cracked, and heading into the winter of 2025, nobody knew if there would even be a 2026 season at all. The negotiations got ugly. Deadline after deadline passed with no agreement. January came, and there was still no deal. The league triggered an automatic revenue share of around $8 million from benchmarks in the old CBA, but that felt like crumbs compared to what the players were asking for. Clark herself weighed in publicly. she telling the world during a USA basketball training camp at Duke University that this moment was too important to waste, that the league needed to find a way to play basketball in 2026, no matter what. The players' union responded by saying they completely agreed with her, but that the league itself was the one refusing to move. It was Clark, the league's biggest star, essentially calling out both sides and demanding a resolution. And she did it in the most composed, diplomatic way imaginable, which only made the contrast with the league's slow-moving negotiations more stark. Fans were watching all of this unfold in real time, and the pressure was building by the day. Then, in the middle of March 2026, something happened that nobody was sure would ever actually come. After months of brutal to drawn-out negotiations, sessions that reportedly ran until 4 in the morning, 10-hour marathon meetings, teams of lawyers going back and forth over language and numbers and percentages, the WNBA and the players' union finally reached a verbal agreement on a brand new, landmark 7-year collective bargaining agreement. 7 years, the longest deal in league history, and the numbers attached to it were jaw-dropping. The salary cap, which had been sitting at just $1.5 million in 2025, was set to jump to $7 million immediately, a staggering increase of over 360%. In a single year, the Supermax salary started at $1.40 million. Average player salaries were projected to land around $600,000, with minimum salaries rising above $300,000 for the first time ever. And every single player in the league would benefit from a full revenue-sharing model. And thresholds to hit. No triggers needed. Commissioner Engelbert called it the beginning of a bold new era. And then, she went on national television and said something that made it crystal clear just how central Caitlin Clark is to all of it. Engelbert appeared on ESPN's Pat McAfee show to discuss the new CBA, and when the conversation turned to Clark, the commissioner didn't hold back. She praised Clark's influence on the league's growth in terms that were striking given everything that had happened over the past year. She talked about how the league was playing 32 games when she first came in as commissioner, and now, under the new deal, teams would eventually be able to play up to 52 games over the life of the agreement. That growth, she made clear, is directly tied to the stars that have made the WNBA impossible to ignore. Clark, she said, had been a huge part of the league's rise. Then Engelbert took things a step further. She specifically called out Clark's work as a guest analyst for NBC's NBA coverage during the 2026 offseason, saying she couldn't be prouder of how Clark was handling her moment. That word, proud, was enormous. Just months after an alleged comment about Clark being ungrateful, the commissioner was now publicly beaming about her in front of millions of people, and that pivot matters more than most people realize. Because here's what the NBC situation actually means for Clark and for the league. During the offseason, while recovering from her injuries and waiting for the WNBA season to resume, when Clark had joined NBC as a guest analyst for pre-game coverage of NBA games, she made her debut in February, sitting courtside ahead of a matchup between the Los Angeles Lakers and the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden. She returned again in late March for coverage of Oklahoma City's game against the Knicks. Every single time she appeared, the social media engagement was through the roof. People were watching NBA pre-game coverage, which is not exactly appointment television for most fans, specifically because Caitlin Clark was sitting at the desk. NBC knew it. The league knew it. And now the commissioner was on a major national program, essentially blessing it and celebrating it. The message being sent was unmistakable. Clark is not just a WNBA player, she is a crossover star, and the league wants the world to know she belongs on every platform. And Clark wasn't just making television appearances during the offseason, she had spent 8 grueling months rehabilitating from her 2025 injuries. And when she finally returned to competitive basketball, she did it on the biggest stage possible, representing the United States of America at the 2026 FIBA Women's World Cup qualifying tournament in San Juan, Puerto Rico. The U.S. went 5-0 in the tournament, and Clark was named tournament MVP, the first time the world got a real look at her since her injury-shortened WNBA season. She was playing for her country and dominating. She was moving freely. Her shooting range was back. The playmaking, the decision-making, the leadership in critical moments, all of it was there. Her own words said everything you needed to know. Well, she said she finally felt like herself again. She said she was really healthy. She said